everybody. It's Barbara Boshin here. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm from Co-Merchant, which is a relisting service for Amazon to Walmart. And we also have EasyKey, which is an automated keywording tool that you can use to drive your sales in Amazon. Chakra?
Yeah, Chakra and Perillo. We have a small accounting firm that's focused on Amazon sellers and other e-commerce people for accounting and taxes.
Great. Oh, this is good. Tonight we are going to talk about passive income. I wish all my income was passive and there was a lot of it. Mike Perillo and I were talking about a topic, and we thought this would be great. We've been doing some level of print on demand, and it's really exciting, and you can do so much with it. And the best part of it all is you really don't need too much inventory. So if any at all, depends. But Mike, if you could give us, I know we talked about this, give us a little background of how you came to land in this planet.
Yeah, sure. So some of you know me, some of you don't. Some of you know my story or a few of my stories. I always seem to have like pretty interesting experiences. But yeah, I started in the print on demand space in 2006 before anybody knew it was called the print on demand space. Quick small story. I had a band and we had a rehearsal studio, and we wanted to put posters up on the wall, and we went to like Walmart and the local like Hot Topic, and we didn't really find anything that was real good. So we went on eBay and purchased a poster. And when it came, I was able to identify it because I had done some work at my job at that point, printing large format stuff. And I was like, I know how these guys did this. They printed off one of those large as my car printers in their house or wherever. And so I was like, I could do this, and maybe I could make money while I slept, which is what my goal at the time was. I was working at Google. I was commuting like 3 hours a day. I had been doing like IT stuff and trying to sell computers, but nobody's going to meet me in a Denny's parking lot at 11 p.m. to buy a computer from me. So I was like, I really need to figure out how to make money while I slept. So I bought a broken large format printer that barely fit in my 1-bedroom apartment at the time. And I had no idea how it worked. I had never used Photoshop. And because I was an IT guy, I managed to get the thing working and printing from the thing itself. And then I was like, okay, now I have to figure out how Photoshop works so I can print stuff to it. And I did all of that, and I started selling like different types of posters on eBay, like nature stuff and cars. And the rest of the business that I had kind of blew up from friends coming to me and being like, hey, I know you can print, posters. Can you print like t-shirts? And I'd be like, give me like 3 weeks. And so I would go out and I would buy broken equipment. I would look to see what I needed. I would buy broken stuff, and then I would bring it home and I would fix it. And then I had to, I figured out a way like, okay, I can sell this with this. Because the one thing about printing when you're actually doing the printing is most of the equipment needs to run. You can't just like let it sit because the ink will dry up in it. So I would always figure out some way that I could print something. And that just rinse and repeat like over and over and over again. People would come to me and be like, hey, can you print coffee mugs? And I'd be like, give me a couple of weeks. Can you embroider hats? I'd be like, give me a couple of weeks. And I did that till about 2011. And at that time, I think we had like 4 or 5, maybe 6 departments at that point. We were doing all kinds of stuff in the print on demand space, selling all this stuff on Amazon and eBay. And I ended up getting laid off for the last time. So I decided to do the business full time, and I've been doing it since. So I guess I probably literally just hit my 10-year anniversary of only doing this. So that's kind of how I got into it. Yeah, it's been a little bit of bumpy along the way. And kind of, as you know, about 7 or 8 months ago, I transitioned out of the actual physical printing part of it so that we could focus more on design and sales and also maybe new ventures. So I went from the world of doing the printing myself to having somebody else do it for me and shipping it, which is what a lot of people are probably going to be wanting to do if they want the passive income, because it became the passive income model. So we can talk more about that, but that's my story, and it's kind of why I'm here.
It's fascinating. It's a school of hard knocks, so to speak, with a lot of heavy duty machinery.
Yeah. And like bigger and bigger spaces. Every time I bought something, we were up to like 80. I've had as much as 12,000 square feet. And the last one before I sold off to Travis Ross was 8,500 square feet. So Now I have
Yeah.
like a little tiny office with 1,000 square feet, and I love it. It's actually the same office where I started after I moved it out of my house, out of my 1 bedroom apartment. So, yeah. So
So that's cool. Yeah, we're the inventory end of the business, so we have a ton of stuff. So we just left in the last 6 months our 1,000 square foot and went to 8,500 square feet.
yeah. So
But
you and I switched places.
but now I want to get more passive. One of my vendors is willing to hold and ship for me, so I'm like, well, that's cool. I don't have to touch that anymore. I thought,
Yeah.
what else can I do? So I've been really, really interested in this whole thing and how to do it in a way that doesn't scare the bejesus out of me, because it's it's a lot of like control I have to
And
lose.
yeah, it's kind of funny that you say that would scare the bejesus out of you, not having 8,500 square feet or having to deal with price increases on space. I mean, everywhere across the United States and probably everywhere, like the cost of space is going up,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah,
and then you've
we
got
lucked out.
employees, things like that. So, my dad a long time ago, he had his own business, and he was, he would always say to me, like, you sure you want to do this? Because his business, he used to do it out of his house. He's like, he would tell me, I beat all my competitors because I could undercut them because I didn't have a giant space. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but I can't do that with printing, Dad. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was, until about 2000, probably 15 or 16. Printers weren't reliable. Like, we tried forever to outsource some of the things that we didn't want to bring in house, like embroidery, and the print community was just like not reliable, and they didn't understand things like Amazon, where you're like, hey man, I need you to ship this in 3 days. They're like, well, normally it's a 2 week turnaround. Like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So around 2016, the print on demand industry kind of caught wind of it. And I think that's where companies like Zazzle and those like Teespring and all that started to kind of like take notice, like, hey, there's a market here that is, largely untapped. And unfortunately, the printing industry it's behind its time in technology. Like, a lot of the technology hasn't caught up to, the ability of out there or the rest of the world, like e-com and shipping in one day, so
Right.
yeah.
And I think a lot of, I mean, I know how long it takes to get something out of merch or KDP. It's not
Right.
fast.
Yeah.
Like I think you could also say that about the printing industry. It also has a really hard time understanding a one at a time thing.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the bigger companies they want to do bulk. They don't really want to do print on demand. There's only small niche people that recognize the ability there. I mean, the cost per manufacturing is higher, which usually turns people off. If I've got to run 400 shirts, I would screen print it, and the cost per shirt might be $4 a piece, but if I'm running 400 shirts with 400 different designs, it's like the cost per shirt is actually closer to like $12 after labor and the time it takes to produce that one individual shirt with the right equipment. So there is a reason that print on demand, the margins are a little smaller, but the upside is, for most people, and even the people on this call, is, if you were going to do anything with print on demand, you don't need inventory. You don't have to wager ahead of time that this design is going to be good. You might have to do a little bit on the art side and design side, like maybe, if you're actually making the artwork that you're going to sell on whatever it is, there's a little bit there, but it's not like you have to buy, there's no MOQs. You don't have to buy 5,000 units and sit on it and store it and hope that, you can sell through all that. So that's the advantage of print on demand, besides the passive part, which you can use certain pathways to make it passive.
Yeah, I think that's good to mention too, because a lot of people on the, buying and selling inventory are always thinking of what their ROI is. And, and a lot of times we're like, well, we want to at least get, if it costs us $10, we want to get, depending on how much, like my whole math is like, well, if it's really hard, I got to pack it. I want to get $10 after Amazon fees. We get $10 for the product, $10 for me, and $10 for Amazon. Is sort of how I think of it. If it's something super easy, like I don't even have to touch it, I'll take a little less, or if it has a decent volume, I can work that way. But when you go to print on demand, and you look at that, you've got to look at your ROI a lot differently. You're investment is, it's not really zero because you have to put time into some level of something, right?
Right.
Design, implementation, or something like that. But it's significantly less than what you would do with any other product that you actually had to go out and source and bring in inventory. So
Yes.
your return on investment is, you may only make $4 on something, but if it was like this the whole way, and you know, it was one design, so you might have to do 30 designs and 2 of them take off or something.
Yeah.
It's not my preferred model,
but just remember that $4 is $4, right? And you're making it, but you didn't have to spend $4,000 to get to that point, right? So print on demand, yeah. Print on demand with the passive income kind of strategy is honestly great for beginners that want to learn what selling online is like, you know, because they learn all the platforms, they learn how commerce works. You know, there's a little bit of an art element, but I mean, all of these things you kind of would have to do even if you were doing an inventory based business. You know, it's just a different pathway. You know, instead of going out and sourcing a product and finding a manufacturer, I've got to go out and find artwork or have it designed, and then I've got to find someone that'll print it something for me that I can know that I can sell, which I would say is a lot easier, honestly, than sourcing and trying to deal with customs and you know, the container problem that everybody has right now where they can't get stuff over here. It's like, why? I don't really want to worry about that anymore. I'm going to pay somebody else to print my shirt, and wherever they get that shirt, that's their problem. You know, they can worry about it. So
yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think this sort of entered my consciousness somewhere in the last 4 years before I really thought that it was starting to look like it had legs.
Yep.
Before that, I was like, "What is this thing? It looks really sketchy. I don't like."
Yeah, it
really,
was.
What if you don't like? Nobody comes to work that day. Am I still going to get my stuff? Is my account going to be endangered? Like,
yes. So, yeah, up until about 2016, all the equipment was pretty rickety. That's the best way I can describe it. Like sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. Some major players got involved, like Epson. They sat back for a couple of years and watched what everybody was doing wrong with these equipment. You know, there was all these like Frankenstein printers that you could like buy one thing and convert it. But yeah, about 2016, I would say that's when everybody kind of they became professional. You know, the equipment became more reliable. You know, these print on demand fulfillment companies started to pop up that will do the printing for you. They streamlined kind of the process so that, I mean, today, literally the way it would work is if you had a piece of artwork, like a smiley face, and you wanted to sell that artwork, or you paid somebody to design it, maybe you paid a VA or you purchased an art pack somewhere, you literally just have to put it on, you know, go to the web, find the blank product with the company that you want to print it with, put it on there, and then throw it on your Amazon account. And then when it sells, that order doesn't even come to you. It just directly goes to the guy that's going to fulfill it. So kind of like drop shipping without any interaction. Like you don't have to do anything once you do that initial tie in to that company. So, I mean, it's like artwork, mock-up, and then listing, and then selling, and you're there. I mean, it's really come a long way and easier now.
And is it pretty reliable?
Yeah, I mean, if you're working with a reputable company, yes. I mean, there are, you know, there's lead times. So like most companies are very forthcoming with like, hey, you know, set your lead time to ship at 5 or 6 days. You know, most of them are not going to do, I mean, Merch doesn't even do prime 2-day shipping. So that should give you an idea. It's like the accepted, you know, the accepted amount is 5 to 6 days before actual shipping, but you can set that with most platforms, you know, so that your buyer has an awareness factor like, hey, this thing's not going to ship for 5 or 6 days. You know, we didn't forget about you. We're just working through our orders, or, you know, we need to order that blank in. Yes, if you work with a reputable company, big companies, you know, like are great. You know, they have tons of backup. They have tons of employees. They've got different print facilities here and there. So if something goes wrong at one with them, they'll shove that order somewhere else. They're very good at things like if that particular style of t-shirt is out of stock, buying a different one and being able to get your order out. An advantage of using a smaller fulfillment partner like me, for example, if I still had my printing business, is you find someone that knows e-commerce or Amazon. Like when I was doing fulfilling for people, you know, I was very aware that we need, you know, there's a time thing. If my customer says that we're going to get this thing out in 3 days. We got to get it out in 3 days, so.
The woman I've been working with doesn't realize that her mom's in the hospital right now. So she goes, "Oh, you might want to turn the orders off for a couple days or for a day, just for a day." And I said, we don't have to ship this till next Tuesday. Like this entire time, she's never looked at the order. She's never realized. She's always getting everything out like in a day. Like,
that's good.
I built in time. I knew like you're a human being.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, you should build in time for anything in this case. Like there's only one FBA, and there's a reason that there's only one FBA is because those guys do it pretty much the best. They've made everything work. Yeah. Everybody else is kind of, they're the professionals, they're the major leagues. The rest of us are in the minor leagues. Even the bigger companies in print on demand can have supply chain issues or other things that can go wrong. But, they try to keep a level of awareness on that. So yeah, if your company that you're working with will tell you, like, we ship usually in 5 to 6 days.
I think so. We've got Zazzle, we've got Printify, we've got Printful,
Gear Bubble,
and everyone's different, right? So for me looking at, I think there's like two primary types, with one type has like a subset.
Yeah.
Like Zazzle is just like you make a design, you put it on there, and boom, that's it, right?
Well, they're a marketplace.
Yeah.
So they're like a Teespring or a Zazzle. It's like they host your sale. Also, Redbubble too is like that. So actually, I don't know if
get a royalty. You never see.
Yeah, you get a royalty. It's like merch.
Service issue or anything.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to cut your teeth just to kind of get an idea, I would start there because it's the least it's the least money, it's the least interaction.
It's kind of like FBA. Like you don't really have to do anything after you get the product into there, which you don't have to worry about with the print on demand side, but they handle all the customer service. It's their customers. You just are getting a royalty for the artwork that you gave them to sell.
And the other ones work a little different. You could actually build a business. That's my impression. Like you could build a following. Like if you do funny teas about pizza, I think I saw somebody did that. T-shirts all about pizza, this pizza, that pizza, Italian pizza, Roma pizza. You could get people. You can go back and remarket to them again. You have and you can set your prices, because I think on Zazzle you can't.
No, you can set your royalty, like how much you want to actually get paid for that product. But yeah, once you move out of that realm where it's kind of the royalty model into the business model, you're setting your prices, you're in more control of your supply chain, where that order is going to go when it comes in, what it is. That's the advantage of this is there's a lot more fulfillment companies in that space that offer unique items. They offer like one of the items that we used to offer is an LED sign that you could, have anything written on it. And it's kind of like a nightlight kind of looking thing. But I mean, hardly anybody in the print on demand space had seen that, but it was good for like almost like toys, or for kids. So, but yeah, the uniqueness of the products kind of expands once you get out of the royalty based selling and you're more into the business or the controlling side of it, where you can control that.
There's one, I forget which one it was. There's one that had a ton of home goods, but again, it was like that. The only place you could sell it was on their marketplace.
Yeah.
And it was royalty based. And I was like, it's okay, but that's my issue with merch. Is like, they do and KDP, they do an okay job, but like I want to add more images and do more pictures and do this, and it's just not super.
Yeah, you're stuck within the confines of what their what their limitations are. So
all right. I think one of the things I'm just trying to think of the things that I thought about and ask you, like, how worried do you have to be? Like I go on Etsy and all over the place, there's just like pictures of Mickey Mouse and all this Disney stuff. And I'm like, so aren't allowed to do that. But I hear like companies are kind of cool with that because it's kind of homegrown stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
So
I'm well trained.
I'm not a lawyer, but here's my answer. If whatever you're putting out there could be interpreted because it has some sort of background to it. So what I mean like that is if you put like a picture of the Death Star out there, people know it's from Star Wars. So if a good rule of thumb is if you can associate it with something else that wasn't entirely 100% your doing, you're most likely doing something wrong when it comes to that. And as far as seeing those things out there, I mean, you know, I
It's
wouldn't
okay
jump
to
out of.
draw a picture. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I wouldn't jump out of an airplane with a parachute because that's pretty much what you're doing. You're just hoping that somehow on the way down that you figure out a way to land safely. I mean, that's how I would look at it. Is like those guys just haven't been caught yet, or that company hasn't, that company Disney or whoever hasn't come around and taken those people down. But it's only a matter of time before they do.
Yeah.
And if you want to risk your one account that you get for Amazon or Etsy for life, by all means, go ahead. If you think you can make $100 off that design, was it really worth it? Did it stop you from making thousands and thousands of dollars later because you got suspended and you can't get back on the platform? No. So the responsible thing to do is design your own artwork. Don't steal other people's ideas. Try not to do anything that could be interpreted as famous from something else or somewhere else. And that goes for anything from artwork to pictures to a phrase that you heard in a movie. You have to just make sure that you know what you're doing, or it could be a brand name that you didn't even know existed. So yeah, my official answer is do your due diligence on what you're selling, know what's in your account, know what you're selling, and make sure that you've covered all your bases, because it might be the only way that you can make a logical argument that you did. Hey, I did a trademark check on this. I searched Google and nobody was using this image or this image with this phrase. And this phrase, as far as I know, didn't come from a movie or anywhere else that I would have heard it. I came up with this 100%. So.
And what about like if you draw it yourself, you hand draw it, you can sell the painting or the drawing, but you can't put it on a t-shirt.
So, I mean, it depends on what it is. If you're drawing a picture of like, Kevin Costner or somebody like that, you're kind of going into the realm of personality rights. So you don't have Kevin Costner's permission really to make money off his name. So it's almost the same thing. But yeah, if you went out and you saw a beautiful sunset and you could hand draw that and you wanted to sell it, by all means, that is your creation. For the most part, photography works the same way, as long as you're not taking a picture of a celebrity. Cars can kind of be a gray area, like if somebody has like a Lamborghini and you want to take a picture of it. Lamborghini may or may not have an issue with that. It just depends on how far you get into it or how, well, honestly, how jerkish the companies are. So.
We know some winners.
Yeah.
So I think another question. All right. I happen to be married to a graphic designer, so I can slap up a really bad design and he'll go like, "Oh, is this what you want?" I'm like, "Yeah, that looks a lot better. Thank you."
Yeah.
But my only complaint is that he's not fast enough. I was like, "You should be ripping like 100 of these out a day." He's like, "What?" He goes, "That's not design. That's whatever that is." It's like
it's writer's block if you're trying to do 100 designs a day. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just bad. I just tease him because he tries to do good design, not just get the design done. So, but like, how do people like get designs? Like, it's obviously we got Printify, we can do all this stuff. We can. I'm still too nervous, and maybe you can tell me later why I shouldn't be nervous about plugging a print on demand into my Amazon account. But as far as I'm concerned, it's Etsy and Walmart for that. I don't want that in the part that pays my mortgage. I do. Not to say I don't do print on demand, but I have like the people like are right there. She makes stuff for me, or we have our own equipment, very limited amount. But like to trust a Printify, I would just be freaking out, even though they're a big company.
So we can quickly go over the three pillars of how you could do this. The first one is the artwork, like you were talking about, and there's several different ways that you can acquire artwork or design artwork, depending if you have the skills. One is you could go out and find something called royalty free, and you need to make sure that wherever you Google that and you end up on a site that it is truly royalty free artwork, which means it's free to use for commercial purposes or anything. So if you want to sell, a hand drawing of a pit bull or something like that, and you go out to a site and you find a royalty free drawing or even photograph of it, you're free to sell that artwork on whatever you put it on. There's some free tools. One is called Canva. That is a free designer tool. So if you happen to have some, maybe a knack for artwork, you could go into it and pick a couple of fonts and make some cool sayings, and you have artwork that way. So that would be a second one. Third one is you could, there's people out there that sell royalty free artwork that they've drawn and put together themselves as like packages that you can buy directly. The fourth thing is you can go down like the Fiverr route, or honestly, even if you were really being professional and you want to do this, the graphic artist route, which could either be, a VA in the Philippines. There's plenty of VAs over there that are graphic designers and graphic artists, or even stateside. So that would be another way that you could easily get artwork. The easiest one is probably to find someone that is just selling ready to go artwork, like as a package or even individually. I believe, like you can find people on Etsy that might be doing it, and maybe that design isn't sold on Amazon. But the most important thing is wherever you source that artwork to figure out is to make sure that you have the legal right to sell it from whoever created it. So that's kind of the artwork pillar of print on demand. The second pillar is kind of the mock-up / listing it on whatever platform you have. So you have this piece of artwork now you digitally have to put it on something like a picture of a coffee mug. So you have to mate the two together. So you have that, and then you have to list it on your platform. But most of us probably on this call are like Amazon people or Etsy people. So these companies like Etsy and eBay and Amazon have made it pretty easy once you mate those together. And you have to do that most likely with software. I believe Canva could do it too, where you could take one thing and another, overlay it. So you take your funny phrase and your coffee mug and you put them together, and then you save it as one file. So that's kind of the second pillar, is like the mock-up and the platform that you're going to sell it on. So.
And they have like Place It. That's something I've been using lately, where I can actually take some of the stock. If I'm making a coffee cup,
Yep.
I can make that in someone's hand. I can put it on a table, and it just automatically.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's a great point for that second pillar of mockups and such. Is placeit.net is I think it's a $30 a month website, and literally if you've made that design or bought that artwork, you can go to their website, find a picture of the coffee mug that you want to sell, or maybe even a t-shirt, a v-neck, and they have mock-ups that are meant for Amazon, which means it does or does not have a model in it with a white background, and you can put your artwork right on the website on that thing and then download the file with the two things melded together. You can also get lifestyle shots, like anything you can do to kind of set yourself apart. So you can get lifestyle shots from placeit.net with that same artwork. You can even get videos. I've been using placeit.net for brand, what do you call it? Brand sponsored brands, video advertising. So
I know that. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the second pillar of print on demand.
Yeah, I was using something on Place It the other night, and it was a baby on a blanket, and you could color the blanket, you could color the baby's, little onesie. It's like, oh, they have like multi-level props, so you could be selling like a whole coordinated package, or maybe you want a baby to have, it's a polka dot blanket, and you're selling, and you want a striped baby jumper or whatever.
Yeah, so here's a little nugget too that I've learned. If you were using or checked out placeit.net and they don't have what you're looking for, you can literally Google something like this phrase, websites like placeit.net, and you'll find all the alternatives that are out there that maybe you didn't even know. So we're talking about Placeit, but maybe there's 17 other websites that are doing something that you might need or have what you might need. So
that's always a little has a lot too, but it wasn't so much as Placeit's just like designed for the whole thing. So I finally said, okay, fine, I'll do that.
Well, as you know, I like backups, so I always try to make sure I have like a couple of different, ways to do certain things, whether that's design, sell, or otherwise. So, yeah.
So was that 3 pillars? That seems like it was.
Yeah, the third pillar was that we can talk about the third pillar, which is like what happens after I get a sale with this thing, or maybe prior to that, who's going to do your actual printing. So the third pillar of print on demand passive income is, at that point, your choice is, am I doing the printing or am I sending this to somebody else to do the printing? and literally to find, there are Facebook groups and other things, but you could always Google, print on demand fulfillment, and you'll find a slew of companies that sell those things. Now, you may have want to figured that third pillar out even when you're at the first or the second pillar, because you're going to need to know that, hey, maybe this company isn't selling, a flask, and I put everything on a flask. So I need to find a company that can print digitally on flasks. So, there's a little bit of head like work you're going to do prior to that. But the concept is, yeah, you got your artwork, you launch it, you've already known who's going to do the printing at that point, and everything is kind of seamless. So when an order comes in from a buyer, it flows right to that print company. Hopefully, if you're using somebody that can do that, and you don't have to enter it. So that's the thing about the third pillar is like there's companies that allow that automation where that order comes in and it literally flows to them, and then they print it and ship it, and then that tracking number that they ship comes back into your Amazon account and lets your customer know like, hey, it's shipped. There are other companies out there that, if you're trying to do something unique, there's smaller companies that might be doing something that nobody else is. But unfortunately, you might have to take that order information and key it into their website to actually place the order. I'd recommend using a VA if you're doing a lot of that. But I mean, it is something that can be done. And I should talk about how that artwork that you created in the first pillar ends up with the printing company. So for the most part, you're going to pre-set up with the print company, things like what the SKU is that you put in Amazon or Etsy, so that when the SKU goes to them, they say, okay, I recognize this SKU. I've already given this company my artwork. So they know that artwork that you designed in pillar one is going to go onto this product that just came in, and they know what it is at that point.
Mhm.
So I mean, you can set up a passive income business without ever leaving your house or physically touching anything related to print on demand. You don't even need a t-shirt. I mean, they do everything for you. You need artwork.
So other than the upfront design part, which you could probably even outsource to a
Yep.
large degree.
Yep. So
Yeah.
I'm working on a project kind of like that. So you know about it, but I don't know if I
I'm gonna
should
be your
mention it
beta.
or kind of talk about it. But
Me and Howard are going to be your betas.
yeah. I can kind of talk through a little bit of the concept and the,
Mhm.
kind of the challenge. The challenge really for print on demand for most people, and the thing that stops people getting into it is like, where am I going to get artwork? I'm not an artist. I don't even know what looks good. Um, so, I've recognized that as being a designer and a printer in this industry. And I would say that is the biggest hurdle for most people. Is like, most people can go out and find a print shop to do their printing for them on whatever it is. Like, that's kind of the easier part. The hard part is like, how do I design something that people are going to want? Well, like I was mentioning, in your options for artwork is like, I'm personally putting together a service where I'm going to sell artwork packages, similar to what the crafters have had forever, where they buy, pre-made whatever it is to put on whatever it is. Mine's just going to be digital. So
Mhm.
I've built automation and software to be able to do that, and hopefully we'll be live kind of towards maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to really put a time frame on it, but it's going to be soon. But the idea
before
is
Q4. Yeah.
yeah, the idea is it'll literally be like a shopping experience. Like, you'll go to a website and there'll be all kinds of options in different designs. So for example, this is real rudimentary, but maybe there's a grouping of designs that says like, hey, I'm a Mike, or I'm a blank name, and I'm awesome. And that's the design, and it's done in a colorful font, or it looks cool. And you'll have the ability to purchase package options where maybe it's got a list of first names or last names that come with it. So maybe like 3,000 names. So there'd be like, I'm a Barbara and I'm awesome. And so you'll get these pieces of artwork and the mock-ups put together and the launch files to put them on your account. So literally from start to finish, you've got everything you need to get started. The only thing that you have to do, and we are even going to have a partnership with a print company, is figure out who's going to print it. But
Mhm.
with our software, I've partnered with a print shop that'll actually be able to do the fulfillment for you. So literally, you'll be able to buy this art package. A small one would be like $90, and it'd have everything you need to go straight to your Amazon account, upload this file, and you're selling those products. And then you'll register with the fulfillment company. It's pretty easy. It's just basically a pass through like anything else, like if you were using ShipStation. And When an order comes in, that'll pass right to your right to the fulfillment company. Now, you will have the ability to use another fulfillment company if you want, but you'd kind of be on your own. I'm kind of handheld through all of this. Like, you're going to buy the artwork, you're going to get the files to launch the actual products and the blanks. All that work is going to be done for you. Like, literally, I'm spoon feeding it to you. And then when an order comes in, it'll head straight to our fulfillment company. And you'll have the option to set your margins and your prices. But it's kind of a all-inclusive thing, similar to the what were we talking? What's merch? The not the referral fee. The what do you call that kind of income?
The royalty.
Yeah, the royalty. So it's similar to that, but you'll be able to do it with a little more control if you want it or not on platforms like Etsy, eBay,
You can
hopefully
optimize,
Walmart.
but you can't. You could seriously
Right.
optimize, and you could add
Yeah.
more images, and really,
Yep.
you could advertise. You could do social media to it, where you just
Yep.
don't have that kind of.
Yeah, and that's
capability
kind of where
or-
the passive part comes in. It's like, yeah, passive income is great, but you know, how much work do you want to put into it? I mean, you could buy a couple of packages, throw them up online, and it's like supplementary income that comes in when you sell something. Set it and forget it. Or you could really get into this. You know, you could. I mean, that file that we give you for Amazon will have a description, the title, everything already set, a couple of keywords, you know, like simple keywords, and you'll be ready to go. But you'll still have the ability to modify that and actually make it your own if you really want it. And it should help anybody that's kind of got that kind of scaredness of getting into print on demand solve at least that artwork problem. So
Yeah.
you touched on something else too, and I know this is a common theme, is I'm scared to death for my Amazon account when it comes to print on demand. Well, that's where working with somebody that knows the platform or has experience with it as a maybe as a seller comes in handy. So yeah, I would highly recommend, you know, like in the business kind of model that I'm putting together, the print fulfillment person was an Amazon seller and they understand the platform. So they know you know, like what needs to be done. Like it needs to get out as fast as possible. And you know, headway or headspace above that, you need to know when or like if there's any delays, like anything, right? So they kind of got all their bases covered. So they've put precautions in place to make sure that they can get stuff out quick as possible. So that's the only thing about print on demand is like it's still, you know, the artwork that I'm going to supply you. I've done the best thing I can to make sure that it's not infringing anybody's trademark. It's not infringing anybody's intellectual property rights as of the date that you bought that file. Um, but I can't guarantee in like a month somebody's going to not or is going to register a trademark for one of those designs. So there's a little bit of diligence. Yeah,
I'm gonna
and
trademark. I'm awesome.
yeah, exactly. And it's possible. I mean, there's that could happen. But there's we won't go down the legal road, but there's first right of commerce and all of those things that could be an argument for it. The point is like you've got your artwork, you can do this and you can do that, and like we said, you can either set it and forget it and walk away, or you can put as much effort into it as you want. Probably the more effort that you put into it, the more money you'll be able to make, the more you'll be able to stand out, and the more that you could build actually like a brand or a business without ever physically having to touch anything and barely putting any money up front. I mean, you don't pay ahead of time until your printer actually prints the product. You pay maybe for the artwork package, but I mean, a $90 artwork package is nothing compared to like $10,000 for a pallet full of shoes, or whatever. So it's
They
interesting.
forecast for that. Like, how do the POD providers forecast for how many flasks they're going to need, or how many T-shirts they're going to need, and what do they do if they run out? I guess they just tell you to turn it off.
Well, that's where if you work with a good provider that has been around for a while or is good at forecasting. I can tell you, for example, in Q4, I usually expected a 5x increase, close to Thanksgiving all the way to Christmas. So I would make sure that our inventory was covered, and we had backups on backups on backups for where we could get blanks. So if company Y was out, we'd go to company X, we'd go to company J, like we had backups on backups locally and across the US. So when you work with a good service provider that's familiar with the Amazon system, or maybe they're very professional like Printful or Printify printers, they'll know that that's how they're supposed to do it. If you're working with somebody that's small town, they're not used to that kind of like that quick, I have to sell and get things out. So it's all about who
Right.
you work with. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? I think that's my questions. All right,
Did
you
that
look like
answer?
you're dying to ask a question.
Who? Howard? You're
No, I'm
muted.
just calling him out.
Did that answer your question? I mean, like it's, like I can sit here and kind of like try to ease everybody's mind, but the truth is,
Mhm.
you need to, you need to know what's going into your account and be aware of it and do your diligence there, and then make sure that you're working with reputable print on demand suppliers, just like anything else. If you were working with a
Yeah.
3PL that needed to ship direct to your customers, you would need to make sure that they knew what they were doing. So it's not a huge difference. But Howard unmuted, so maybe Howard has a question.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask you a question. I'll give you a from my aspect and how I do my business. I love print on demand. I don't do it, but I'm the guy that brings in pallets of goods, and we make a lot of mistakes. So like I'll buy a lot of things. I'm like, oh, this is all going to be great, and 3 months down the road, you get an IP thing or you get this or that. What a pain in the ass. Whereas with the way you're doing things, Mike, it's sharp because you can actually just basically have no inventory and try something out. And if it works really well, then you can maybe go deep on that product. So, and like you can have a lot of different SKUs, you can have a lot of different designs. Like I know you're like the SKU master, but like, it's a nice concept. It's a great concept.
Yeah. And you're right. Like you were saying, it's like you have the ability to try something out. And you can go way deep on it if it does well, whether that's a design or maybe even that blank that, millions of people start buying, like pop sockets and things like that. If you're first to market and you can personalize those or customize them, or even if you just get, your smiley face artwork on them, it's like you can make tons of money. Advantageously and kind of strategically, what you'd want to do is always be, I call it having one more in the can. So you'd always want to make sure you had that next design or those next few designs in the can, because your heroes can be short-lived too. Just like anything else, just like in the products business, in the art world business, you can be relevant. You could have like a seasonal design. You could have something that's based on, I know a lot of people that actually made money off the eclipse a couple of years ago. They made an
Yeah.
insane amount of money, but
Sure.
I mean, it's like, all right, well, you had some luck there, but you need to
And
make
every
sure that
20
you have
years.
got more in the can. Yeah. And even evergreen, I mean, there's problems with artwork where people can steal it. There's certain precautions that you can take, which I'm happy to talk about. If need be, to make sure that people don't steal your artwork once you create it or purchase it, or you get a license to use artwork. Like in my case of the kind of the service that I was talking about building, there's two options, and we might want to kind of dive into that. But um, artwork you can either 100% own, or you can use it licensing, which some people, basically like licensing, most people would associate with something like Star Wars. Like you can actually get permission to print or sell Star Wars, Star Wars artwork on whatever, and that would be licensed. The company says like, okay, for this amount of money that you pay us, we'll let you use this to earn money for yourself off of. So that's licensing. Or maybe they sell you artwork 100%. A lot of independent artists out there will draw you a picture, whatever you need. And it's always a good thing to ask, by the way, if you're having artwork done by anyone, like who owns this at the end of you creating it? Do I own it? Is me as the buyer, do I own it? Or am I licensing it from you? And there are like restrictions that I need to know. Like you don't want your artwork to show up in the adult entertainment industry or something like that. Like there always can be limitations to that. So
You did mention something that is near and dear to my heart. It's the customization piece, which is not well facilitated in anything I've seen so far.
yeah. Yeah, the personalization and the customization thing is like print on demand printing in 2015. Like it's almost there, but it's still really rickety. I'm sure some of you on this call have bought something off Etsy where they were selling something. It was like, oh, you can get this customized with whatever you want on it. But there was no like logical path to give them that information besides send me a message after you buy it.
They fixed that. They did fix that.
Did they? Oh, they
Yeah.
finally fixed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like Amazon custom, or is it still kind of clunky?
It's pretty good actually. It's
Oh,
a different
okay.
implementation, but it's pretty good.
Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to look into Etsy. That was one thing. That was a platform I never touched because I didn't want to deal with
Yeah,
1,600
all those
emails coming
emails and
in.
everything. It's where
Yeah.
Walmart's that platform now. You can't do anything
Exactly.
custom in
So
Walmart without.
that's a good point.
Well,
It's
you
like,
can, but you have to
Yeah.
hire a company, and it's exorbitantly expensive.
and for what it's worth, people on the call that don't know what we're talking about, it's literally like my first set of examples was like what I would call static artwork, like a smiley face. That's all it is. It's a smiley face. It's done. It goes on your product. Personalization allows you to like add a name or a birth date or a phrase to something. So your buyer has the ability to say like, I want happy birthday dad on this coffee mug. And then that artwork and all such gets printed on that coffee mug and shipped to them. Now, the facilitation of that is still rather clunky. And in my experience, almost the hardest part to explain to people that aren't artistic or have no idea how that works. As you know, Barbara, I kind of had a little foray into that world. And I found that the hardest part was to try to explain, like, yes, your customer could literally tell you they want happy birthday dad on, via a form on that website. And then you could send that and have it printed on whatever your product was that you were selling, whether that was like a men's toiletry bag or whatnot. So yeah, personalization just means that you can change the design. It's not set in stone. Or you can offer the ability to add something to it, which I would refer to as semi-customizable. So, but yeah, that's another realm, and it's a largely untapped market. I mean, platforms like Etsy finally caught up to it. Amazon has a program called Amazon Custom, where you can take any ASIN and allow it to have some sort of option like that, where the buyer can do something that you've designated. But you have to make sure that when that order comes in, you've got somebody that can actually like fulfill that for you. So, and it's still a little clunky, but there are a lot of advantages to it. One is like not a lot of people are doing it. So if you can facilitate that through print on demand, you can make a good amount of money. There's rumors that those Amazon custom listings get search bumps. So you're higher in search ranking for keywords. They've got a little more rank juice in them.
Yeah, I think because they would really like to own everything ecom. So if they could own an Etsy version and this version and that version, they'd be very happy.
Yeah, and you can do it with your website. Shopify has plugins that you can use to offer personalization on stuff. So, yeah, I mean, merch hasn't really caught up to that. It'd be pretty cool if somebody could offer, but then you'd have like 10,000 people offering the same T-shirt that you could write "Happy Birthday" on or whatever. So, but I mean, it's just it's the yeah. Sure, go ahead, Howard.
No, I didn't want to cut you off, Mike. So Mike, what about like if I'm creating designs or if I have a VA creating designs and I want to move forward and have those protected, like what's the process that we would use to protect designs so that other guys aren't copycatting and doing exactly the same thing? Like what are the costs incurred and like what is the process?
So, I mean, off the bat, when you create something, whether you take a photo or you draw a picture of something on a napkin, there's an unofficial copyright. Like you own that, you did it, it's yours. But there's not really like a database resource in that example where you can say like, hey, I made this. If you ever had to fight something, somebody stole it from you, you could. Then the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, they do have a copyright department, and you can actually register designs. I think it's about $30. So let's say you have a hero design, it's one that just blew up, and you're like, I want to stop everybody from selling this thing or stealing it from me. You can register a copyright on that particular design. And what that means is the way it's laid out, the coloring, the font, all of that is protected legally. So at that point, you've got something you can stand on if you have people ripping you off. Either you can go to your lawyer and be like, hey, I have a copyright on this design and this guy over here is selling it. Your lawyer would be like, all right, that's all we would need to get through that in court. So that's one way. If we're talking worldwide, like anything, like if you're going to sell window clings or whatnot. As far as protecting it on certain platforms, some platforms have gone a little farther. Like Amazon, for example, offers brand registry, and brand registry is great. You can protect your designs and your brand name and all of that stuff. But if you have that extra copyright too, it's just another like kind of thing in your satchel that would allow you to defend it if it need be. But to answer your question, even though you created it, you've still got a legal foothold to stand on, even if you didn't register it or you don't have brand registry, because you're the one that created it. You could easily prove in a court of law, if you had to, that like, hey, I drew this on this date. Here's the file that I used to make it. Here's whatever you have. I took a picture of it on my cell phone the day I created it. That would be a foothold for anything to stop people from stealing your artwork. Does it happen? Yes. Unfortunately, and it's kind of like the example that we used at the beginning where, some people just haven't been caught yet. Like I was browsing, I don't do much on eBay, but I was browsing around on eBay the other night and I found several of my designs on there sold by somebody else, like literally to the T, the exact thing. And I'm like, damn, I didn't even, I eBay is kind of a small platform for us. So I didn't really even think about it. And then I went on there, I'm like, oh, another thing I got to defend, and at that point, a lot of people kind of make the decision, like, is it even worth it? Like I can just keep designing it. I'm good at it. I've got a following. People are going to love my stuff. This whole thing over here, it's not too out of control. Maybe if I was making tons and tons of money, I could lawyer up and take them out, which might be worth it, if you're inclined to do that. But I mean, for the most part, legally, you can do things along that. There's some tech kind of things you could do to protect your artwork if you needed to as well. I won't go too far into that, but there's techniques and stuff if anybody wants to message me offline. There's stuff that we do, for example, like well, just quickly, I never put artwork out on the web in high quality format. So like the stuff that I need to print from, which usually needs to be super high quality, like high file size, nobody in the world ever sees that unless I've sold it directly to them. So you get kind of a stripped down version and a lower quality version. And even though Amazon allows, you to upload massive, beautiful graphics, I would never put that up there in a quality that someone like a hacker or like a very tech person would be able to rip that down and use it. So that's kind of a strategy that we've used for a while. The guy that was selling on eBay, I mean, he might have had to clean up that artwork to make it high quality enough when he got a sale. But I mean, he had to jump through some hoops to make it work, or maybe he didn't. And he sells somebody an inferior mug and, it sucks for the buyer. But, there are things like that, like protect your intellectual property. If you make artwork, make sure that you're not posting the high quality versions on your website that somebody can, click the link and it blows it up to this big because somebody, an unsavory character could come along and grab that. So, those are the ways that I would say you could kind of protect your artwork.
Cool. Thanks.
We cover everything else like PPC.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between you could do enhanced brand content with a print on demand if it's not the royalty. Like you can't do that with merch. You can't do that with KDP. You can't do that on Zazzle. But you could do a lot of marketing and merchandising.
Yeah.
And variation listings too, right? So you can do that. We've got one good design. You can make 10 different colors of it or styles of it.
If I had to go back and tell my, self 10 years ago, something, the thing I would tell them is
33 million or something.
The thing I would tell them would just be, do things that people aren't doing. Try to find people that, in the print on demand space, like everybody's doing t-shirts. That's why merch is so like popular. And but it's the equivalent of standing in the middle of, a crowded room with a bunch of people and everybody's talking and you're trying to talk, like be heard over them. There's a lot of noise. So, but like things like, I think we were talking about like pillowcases the other day. That's kind of like an untapped market. Not too overwhelmed. Signs, actually, home decor signs right now are huge. Like I said, if you can figure out how to get something onto some other product and that somebody else isn't doing, that would be the way to go. Otherwise, I'd tell my other self to buy Bitcoin and Apple stock, probably.
By this point in time, and Amazon stock.
And Amazon stock. Yeah.
I actually bought Amazon stock and I would go back and tell myself to buy more.
Yeah, exactly. You
Not
always
to
want
have
to be able to
sold
do
it.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the idea is like you have to, it's largely a marketing space. Like figure out how to make yourself stand out. And that can go any way from your social media to your brand to your designs to, like what you're having things printed on for print on demand. Maybe avoid, overcrowded spaces because it'd be the same thing as like,
When I look at coffee cups, I'm like, they're coffee cups.
yeah, I mean, the fact that merch doesn't do coffee cups still makes coffee cups like a competitive market. So
Very strange that they don't. It seems to me like that would be something that would be super easy for them to do.
yeah, I can't tell you why they don't do it. I don't really know because the cost. I mean, I know there's a couple of companies that have monopolies on the blanks, so maybe that's why. Like maybe there was some disagreement there. I don't know. I mean, I know I'm very familiar with one of the major mug manufacturers for that industry.
Right.
They're actually based here in California, even though they manufacture in China. And yeah, they just do what they do, and they're kind of again behind the times. But yeah, mugs is because it still takes a certain type of person to be able to sell a coffee mug. You still have to have the equipment or be able to do it. And so without merch, a lot of people don't have access to that kind of thing. So they don't have the ability to do it. But t-shirts super overcrowded. I mean, I probably wouldn't get into the print on demand space just with a apparel idea. I mean, it's gonna be really hard, and you're gonna spend a lot of money to get
What about not
seen.
t-shirts, like other kinds of apparel?
I mean, anything that merch does, I would probably try to avoid a start, or at least you can have it as a supplemental product. But your hero products are going to probably be more of the things like coffee mugs or even like things we weren't talking about. Like we did a lot of flasks when the world was normal and people were going to concerts. We sell a lot of things. Like one thing that's like popular, definitely, we didn't realize how seasonal it was trucker hats with a leather engraved patch on it. Those are huge right now. And it's all the country boys and girls buying that stuff up. It's just a country look. Tie-dye is huge right now. So that's a type of apparel, but tie-dye is huge right now for like the Gen Z kids. So if you've got a design that's kind of marketed towards them and you can find somebody that'll actually print on a tie-dye t-shirt, yeah, that's huge.
Make a tie-dye print and put it on something.
Yeah. I mean, you can do tons of research. There's Google Trends, and you can just go to Instagram and all those places and talk to your nieces and nephews and daughters and sons and be like, okay, what are you guys doing right now? I mean, I'm almost 40, but I have friends that are like 20, 25. Some of them have worked for me. So like a lot of times these crazy, like I had no idea about tie-dye. Like I was working at our old print shop and somebody was working for me. They're like, we got to buy some tie-dye t-shirts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like tie-dye from like the 70s? And they're like, no, it's different now.
It's been in and out so many times.
Well, it's not so intense anymore. Like they have tie-dye t-shirts that have like a little splotch here and a splotch here and here. So you can actually like print something there, but it's super popular in like the Gen Z kids. And I had no idea, and then all of a sudden I started looking and I was like, man, I'm seeing people on like Saturday Night Live wearing this, like musical artists wearing this. Like, damn, I didn't even know. And it's funny because it's like right there in front of you. Like,
yeah, you have to get out more too.
That's well, you just have to be a little more you just spatially aware is what I would say. Like, and if you don't know, ask. Never be afraid to ask like somebody that like your family member or whoever, like, all right, what is everybody into these days? Is it like Hello Kitty? Like I would be like, oh, Hello Kitty, that's like 10 years ago or 15 or whatever. And they might be like, oh, it's coming back, or retro is coming back, or we're all playing Sega Genesis games on my PS4. It's like, whoa. Okay.
Really? The graphics not bothering you?
No, I mean, yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, there's a retro crowd, and there's, it's just funny. Like you can really kind of get all kinds of ideas. And you can do research too, just go to Amazon and type funny shirt and you'll figure out what's trending. Same thing with like Twitter. Go look at Twitter hashtags and see what the top ones are every day and maybe keep track of that. Yeah, so you can ask, you can search, you can check hashtags.
And then the other alternative too is to build something that isn't just like the top trend that's going for this period, because cycle,
yeah,
you can build based on a niche, right? So that's something
evergreen. Yeah, we call it evergreen. Those are the designs that'll last forever that really aren't time based.
Like red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
Anything related to
dogs. Yeah. Anything related to dogs, you have a huge like female demographic and male demographic that would buy into that. Mostly all our dog stuff is generally like female kind of like oriented, so that we make, I mean, those are the ones, those are the ones that are buying. And the cat stuff. Yeah. Dogs seem to be huger than cats right now because they're the substitution sometimes for children early on, or whatever they call them, their fur babies. So, and I have friends that have dogs that are like nuts, and they spend money on their dog like it was a child. Like
one of our clients is all pet products, and the price for some of the stuff is like very high.
Yeah, it's insane. So.
Okay. Well, I think we've got. Howard, did you have another question? Anybody else?
I do not. This was great. A lot of
great. Well, thank you very much, Mike. And you get that ready, we'll let everybody know.